Good morning, I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today we'll meet Pamela Overy and learn how this stay-at-home mom has a thriving business right in her own home.
We hope you will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community, we'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
So you started a bakery business, but before that, you were doing other things, mom and many other things. So tell us a little bit about that background.
So my background is in food, restaurant management, so that's wonderful. But I learned very quickly after college that if I went that route, it's all your weekends. That's a crazy business. So I ended up going I worked as an office manager here in Rochester, and that was great. I was loving those hours. But then the corporate world is tough too. It's tough to have a family in that world. And ultimately, when my daughter was born, my second child, I stayed home. So that's what I did for 5 years. And then when she started school, the idea for the bakery kind of evolved. So I've always loved to cook. I've always loved to bake. And just started decorating for their parties. I couldn't stand paying somebody else to bake these cakes, so I started learning how to decorate, and I always loved to bake, but it was fun. And then one thing would lead to another, and somebody would say, hey, can you make one for my kids' party? So that was fine, but then it really started to escalate a bit, and my husband and I talked about it, and we talked about the liability that was starting, because there was just so many, and people started to want to pay me for it. And so it kind of evolved, it happened so naturally. But luckily I already had a business background, and I already loved to bake, so I kind of had both pieces. So when my daughter was 4, we started really pursuing what that would look like. It didn't look possible, but then as faith would have it, our basement kind of flooded. We had some problems in the back of our house, and so we had to do something with it, and it just seemed like it flowed right into a perfect fit. So started the business plan, which is a big deal for me, having a good business plan, and it just skyrocketed. I never needed to do any advertising, really. I have a Facebook page, but it was all word of mouth. And lucky for me, the demand well oversees the supply in our area. So people need cakes. There's always something, and people they do their own. They can bake. They enjoy it. There's just no time. It's so time consuming, and I'm right there, especially in my community in Pittsford. They've been so good to me. So it's been great. So that's where we're at.
And what do you think makes your cakes special, your baked goods special versus other
Oh, I love that question. I would say the love. It's all in the love, and that's right on my website. And we were talking about this just this morning with my kids, and just food and restaurants in general and what makes them special. When you do something you love, it changes everything, right? And Mauricio taught me a few lessons about praying over some different projects and things like that. So it's all about the love. And I just love what I do, and a good business plan, and when everything is organized, it just kind of falls into place. So it's been wonderful.
That's wonderful to hear about that, Pam. And actually with Julio, we have the opportunity to interview you when we were in the radio station only, and seeing now how much you have been blessed, and how much you have grown, not only from numbers perspective of that aspect, but as a professional, as a leader, and understanding to be a business owner in your house, in your place. How you bring the balance? Because you are a mom, you are busy, you have kids, you have activities to do, but at the same time now you have orders that you need to. How you achieve the balance?
Well, we're in the 4th year now, and it's better balanced than it has been, for sure. Those first 2 years are really, really tough, because you want to do everything for everybody, and you become overwhelmed, and you can get burned out. And so this year is definitely the best balance. I have a set schedule for the first time in a long time. I'm looking forward to really implementing that when school starts up again. And I've learned not to check social media during the time when I'm in my bakery. So I have those set bakery hours, and then I'll do a few hours of administrative work in the afternoon, which is fine. But you really do, it's so difficult when you own your own business and you have that great flexibility, which is wonderful, but you know, there's the downside to it, which is you get kind of dragged in. You do have flexibility, so you can do this class or that party or visit with that friend, but the work still needs to be done, which was getting done at night, and that's way less fun. Takes away from the family time and all of that. So I've become much better at saying no when I need to, and just balancing my time. Do not get distracted when you should be working. So it's been incredibly helpful.
Right, and that's actually my question about the distractions, because we talked to a number of folks here on the show that do run their business out of their home, and that difficulty of separating, you know, the home life ends here and the work life begins now. And so you mentioned a few of the tips. What other advice would you give people that need to be more productive working at home?
Well, you do have to set your priorities. I mean, it's really as simple as a schedule, but you have to stick to it. It is so tempting. Shut that phone off. I mean, if you need to get something done, that's incredibly important. You know, I'll listen to a podcast, which distracts me, and those are fun. So you just have to stick to your schedule, and it's so tempting not to. Someone will call me last minute, and just yesterday it happened, and I have such wonderful customers that I want to help, and they trust me more than they trust anybody. They know what they're getting, and oh gosh, it's very difficult to say no, but you have to. And this year, I'm committed to being even better at sticking to that schedule. But you know, if you add in efficiencies, that's good too. I buy in bulk more than I ever have, so that's helpful. It's less trips to the store, less, you know, invoices to enter, those sorts of things. So
now you have developed a little bit your infrastructure, your invoicing system, and your ordering. Are you thinking now go online and orders online? Is that something that you are thinking, or you just how does that work?
It's a great question. Well, I think with, you know, if it was always on the table, because you want to create those efficiencies, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's something that would be wise for me to do. You know, as a small business owner, you need to weigh all of the costs and the benefits that go along with it. I mentioned that I have some great customers that really trust me, and they know exactly how to order. They know, you know, when to order. They do. There's very little back and forth and all of that, so they make it so easy for me. And I think the amount of time and effort I would put into a platform that would accept orders online, you know, when I'm pretty much at capacity right now, it just doesn't make any sense at this moment. That would be something that would have to happen if I was ever to expand out into a retail situation, which probably isn't going to happen in the near future. I love my setup. I'm so blessed to be able to do this at home, and there's still plenty of room to grow there. So,
Do you have a busy time of the year? Do you do weddings and seasonal type of things?
So my original business plan had me seasonal, as you just said, and I am busy constantly. I've never had an off week ever, which is a huge blessing. Christmas is 3 times everything else. So my husband and I were just talking about this the other day, what the holidays are going to look like. And, you know, I have to decide what I'm going to do. I'm one person, so I'm probably going to focus mostly on those Christmas cookies this year. Everybody loves Christmas cookies. Everybody. They're colorful. They're fun. I love doing them. So I think that'll be a great focus this year. But yes, the holidays are huge, but every other time has been at capacity. I've never wondered, what will I be doing this week?
Well, how do you take vacation? How do you plan that time?
You have to carve it out. And staycations don't work for me. I tried that. It just, I get too tempted to do work or something like that. So we just have to carve it out. We're already talking about next summer, how that's going to look, because I wanted to take more time off this summer. My kids are home. They're fun. They're at such great ages, and I want to do fun things with them. And we've done a lot this summer, but I'd like to do even more next summer. But I also love what I do. So it's a tricky balance when you're an entrepreneur, solo girl. So but I'm so blessed to have this problem, right?
Well, it's beautiful to see your discipline. You have that discipline to say, this is what I want. We are focusing in this market. We are focusing in this methodology and this approach. We don't need any more. And I think that is extremely important, because sometimes when we allow the temptation of growth, we can get trapped by those type of things and start losing the fun of enjoying the business and the reason why you create the organization. I think that's a very important message. Now, what would be your message for mothers, specifically mothers that are right now watching, and maybe they are in that stage, you know, I have my wife is at home and full-time mom, and sometimes the challenge is to say, well, you know, what I'm doing in life, and what would be that message to them? You know, these are great opportunities. We are in Be Inspired Innovations and all that, but what would be the message to them?
You were talking to Steve earlier, and it was a lot of financial talk, and I think so much happens before you even get to that part. So there's so much that mom can do sitting there right now. You know, coming up with that business plan is huge. Start to think about all of those things, whatever your business is. That you have taxes, you have zoning, you have costs and competitors, and you know, just start writing all of those things down so you can start researching. And you know, I spent probably a good eight or 9 months before we even, longer than that certainly, but 8 or 9 months solid just working on this business plan to make sure everything was in place before we even talked about financials. So, you know, do all that, put that work in ahead of time. The more work you do knowing what you're in for, the better off. But you can do all of that while you're home with your kids. And certainly do not give up. If you run into a dead end, I heard Steve say that as well. No. Do not give up. There's always something there for you. But it is, you can get stuck in that place.
You can. And as far as promoting the business, you mentioned you rely on social media and word of mouth. What are the keys to get those two things going for you?
I mean, it's really been word of mouth. It took off. Again, I'm so blessed. I think if you love what you do, so if any business, if you have skateboards or whatever the situation is, get out there, promote your product, say how much you love it. One of the things I am wanting to branch into is more corporate, and I love some of my corporate clients, and I know what I could do is just put those logos on some cookies, take them into a business with those fresh baked chocolate chips, and here you go, try these on me. And I actually have not only a 100% order rate when I give samples to businesses, but a 100% reorder rate, which is pretty crazy. So, and show your love.
Thank you. We'll be back with more after these messages.
One of the challenges is in the bakery business is that, you know, how you balance in terms of your budgets and making sure that when you are delivering something that brings the value and the price and is competitive too, because I know your cakes are amazing and delicious, but you are always watching the cost and how that works.
So. Oh, I love this question too. So when we first started, I always thought, and I think we had talked about this, you challenged me back then, about, you know, kind of branching out to things like gluten-free, which is huge these days, right, or healthier options. But the reality is, in order to keep costs low, you have to pick what you're going to do and you have to do it well. So that's what I'm doing now. You know, I found the thing I love most, which is really buttercream is what it comes down to. So I can do almost any design in buttercream. The cookies I just love, and I do the logo cookies, and then I have an assortment of fresh baked cookies that I do. And that's pretty much it. But knowing that's it, I can, you know, find the best ways to buy those supplies. I buy in huge amounts of bulk, so I can get things a little less expensive. I have never increased the price of my cookies in the 4 years, so I'm really proud of that. And I brought the costs down. So, you know, obviously costs of everything go up. So I'm trying to find ways to get my supplies, you know, in a more effective way, and it's wonderful. I love the challenge of that. As you said, I'm a numbers girl too, so I'm always about, you know, being able to save money here so I don't have to pass this along to my customer. So it's been great.
Now, when it's a small business and you're getting new customers and expanding your business, do you ever come to the point where you just turn down a job?
I turn down, right, it's a good percentage nowadays. It's a good problem to have, but it makes me sad too, because I want to be able to do everything. I could, if I really wanted to, I could be working, you know, 60 or 70 hours a week, and I love it that much. but you know, I have a family, so I work usually around 30, 35 right now, but that comes at a cost, and that's the cost. So it's tricky. So the big thing I say, I have a mailer. I do that for advertising that I'll send out to my customers, and I say, get those orders in. Even if you don't know exactly what you need, like if you have an event coming up and you want me to be the one to do it, I'm happy to do a save the date for my customers. But I already have bookings for next graduation season. That's my second busiest season, is graduation season. So we have to get those orders in. It's really heartbreaking to say no to somebody that I really want to do it for, that I've worked with, and you know, we've been talking about balance, and sometimes that comes at a price. So, but it's been great.
Well, that's beautiful story, Pam. And one of the things that I love it in the interview that we have when we have the radio show was your faith, and how important was faith for you, and how important is to take that step of risk and doing something that you don't know. What would be your recommendation around those elements that are fundamental: values, principles, and faith?
Well, faith should be, for me as a Christian girl, faith is in everything that I do. And I've told some really fun stories about cakes that are related to faith, and how if I have something I'm trying that's new that I'm a little bit nervous about, I will pray about that. And when I pray about it, it works a lot better than when I do not pray about it. It's amazing. And I've told some fun stories in church about it, but I have a girlfriend once who's known me a long time. She said to me, I don't understand all this stuff. You don't draw. You don't, like, I've never known you to paint anything. You're right. It doesn't, I always say, it just doesn't feel like me. Some of these things I look, and what's on the table, I can't even believe that came out of me. But it's faith, it's praying, it's just remarkable. Everything happens so much easier when I pray about it. So it's been wonderful. And there was one time I recall trying to make something. I told that story in church about it. It was a unicorn, which are big this last couple of years, unicorn stuff. And I was so frustrated. It was such an easy little thing. I couldn't get it right. And then I remembered I didn't pray about it. And the second I did that and I settled myself, everything just worked out just fine. So, but it's huge. It's everything.
And you had the experience of having been an office manager. So how do you mentioned you take a couple hours each day to do the bookkeeping and all those other things, and how do you stay disciplined about that? Because it's not as much fun as making cakes.
It's not, but for that part of it, it's okay if I get interrupted. So I do that part when the kids are kind of heading in and getting home from school, so I can enter an order and make a snack, or that kind of thing. But you have to, because I've been in that situation where I'm not diligent about it, and that will catch right up on you. So again, you have to carve out the time for it. And things do happen, and it is nice to have that flexibility of not having to punch a clock. But there's a balance. Not having to punch a clock does not mean you don't have a schedule. And if you get caught in that trap, you'll be working all the time, and you'll interrupt things that you wanted to do. And 4 years in, I've learned this lesson after a lot of trial and error. So I think this will be my best year yet in terms of keeping a schedule, but that's going to be great for my customers, great for my family, so it should work out well.
Who will be the people that you will be very thankful for who you are today and for your success?
So there is one family that I credit all the time, and they have 3 daughters, the Donato family. I worked for them right out of college, and they ran a restaurant in Niagara Falls, and I went to school at Niagara University, and I worked for them. And one of the things they did at the time was they used to call out to customers. So if you're in a mall setting, a lot of people just hang back and wait for customers. They didn't do that. They used to yell out to people, "Hello, how are you? Why don't you come on over? Would you like a sample?" So when I first opened the business, my friend Joy and I did an event where I was doing that. It was a football cheerleading event, and I kept saying, "Hi, come on over, come on over." And my friend said to me, "Where in the world did you learn to do that?" And I said, this amazing family I worked for all those years, the Donato family. So the mom of that family has since passed, but the dad is there, and I'm still friends through social media with the daughters. And I've always given them full credit for that over the years, just teaching me to reach out to people and just say hello and talk. And we did a lot of samples that first year too, so the Donatos.
That's wonderful.
That's an amazing story. Now, you actually you mentioned you actually studied like hospitality management, or okay. And did you know then that you'd end up with your own business one day?
No. I thought I was going to manage the restaurants. And then when that I realized pretty quickly, and at that time too, it was a different kind of world. It was a world where, you know, waiters and waitresses just did not make a lot of money. Managers did not make a lot of money. And so you could be working so hard, and it just wasn't that kind of world then. It's a bit different now, and just the hours were unbelievable. It's all, you know, evenings and weekends, and I knew I would not have a family, at least not the kind of family life I wanted if I continued down that road. So that was a scary place because I loved the work, but so I ended up going into office management, which is where I met my husband, so thank goodness. And, you know, I did that for a couple different companies throughout the years, and you know, but that piece is important too, because then I have the business background to go with it. So it really, I ended up with the best of both worlds by the time the bakery evolved. So it was great.
Pam, what an honor for this interview, and congratulations again for the great progress that you have accomplished and for your faith. So thank you very much, and I'm sure that we will be another program in the future. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next week on Be Inspired, we'll meet Pedro Riveros and learn about his growing business in South America. To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/beinspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Bullet 97.1 Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Saenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.